All right, welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 16. Again, want to welcome everyone. Holding by the book of Leviticus chapter 16. We're in verse 19. And we spoke last week about atonement, right? Taking the blood from the bull, blood of the ego, mixing them together, so to speak, putting them on the horns or the corners of the altar. So now in verse 19, Torah tells me, the Torah says, you're going to sprinkle upon this blood, right? You're going to take this blood, you are going to sprinkle it on. You're going to sprinkle upon it from the blood with his fingers 7 times. Again, the blood of on the altar. You can do it 7 times. You shall purify it, sanctify it from the impurities of the children of Israel. So what do I say? Placing of the blood, placing the blood's atonement, right? Seemingly atonement over here, or see exactly how it works, right? But he's going to purify. He's going to purify the altar, right? So let's say better, not atonement, but let's say he's purifying the altar, sanctifying it, right, from the impurities of the Jewish people. What does that mean? What does it mean exactly? What impurities? What impurities are we talking about? Right? Torah doesn't tell me. Right? Torah doesn't tell me over here. So first thing is, Rashi says, what does it mean he's going to sprinkle it from the blood? After he's put applications with his finger on its horns, we said that before. You're going to take the blood of the bull, blood of the ego, previous verse 18, place it on the horns of the altar. So now what does he do? After he puts these applications with his finger, he's going to put on the horns, meaning on the corner, right, on the corner of the altar. He sprinkles it 7 times. Seven sprinklings over here. So the Gemara says in Yuma 58b, 59a, Rashi explains over there, what does it mean? What does it mean he's going to sprinkle over here? He means, right, let's say better, it cannot mean an explanation of and place it on the horns of the altar. Can't be going on the previous verse. One of the commentaries that Rashi points out. When it says on, it means on top. Right, that's the first thing. Right, on its horns, again, cannot be placed it on it. Now I know that. Right, what does the previous verse mean over here? So must mean on top. Doesn't mean that say on it means on top. That's the first thing. Second thing Rashi says is, he says, he shall purify it. It's going to purify the altar, right? So what does that mean? Purify means from that which is past, right? Whatever came upon it before, now he's going to purify it. And now he's going to sanctify it from that which is destined to come for the future. Right? What's going on? What's he saying over here? The impurities of the past that were on the altar, this is going to come to sanctify. So to make sure that it doesn't get profaned in the future, right? It doesn't get misused, let's say better, in the future. One explanation. Another explanation is purification over here is removing any impurity, whatever impurity there was. Right? First explanation is taken away from the past. Things that were done. Things that were done in the past. Second explanation is any impurity from the altar. Now, what else do we have? What else do we have besides purification? We also have the implements of the Mishkan, right? Of the tabernacle, also sanctified before it was used. Right? So in other words, you want to use it, very good. But it's got to be pure. It's got to be sanctified. So the sprinkling of the blood, it's not only a purification over here, right? Again, from past impurities, let's say, but also a re-sanctification. So two things, right? Two things over here. See, the Torah says you're going to purify it and sanctify it. Now, this is in line many times that the Torah will make statements and not explain. Torah doesn't tell me anything. Doesn't tell me anything over here. This tells me you're going to purify it, you're going to sanctify it. So Rashi explains, purified from past impurity, and then sanctified either you're sanctifying it for the first time, or re-sanctification. Right? I shouldn't say for the first time, it's already been done. There's been issues. Right? Might be impurity over here. So here's the re-sanctification. In other words, coming the second time to be re-sanctified. So what's the Torah telling me? The Torah telling me is that it needs to be done. You need two things: purification, sanctification. Purification, sanctification are not the same thing. Right? They're not the same thing over here. So we're talking about things that happened in the past and things that potentially will come in the future. Right? That's what Rashi over here seems to say. So we have blood over here that is going to put on the altar. See, blood over here does not mean atonement. Or let's say better. The previous verse we spoke about the fact that it says you're going to take the blood, put it on the altar, right? And make atonement. Rashi said, what's that atonement? And again, we have this intermingling of the blood. Right? Both bloods are mixed over here. Right, so let's understand. There are two things going on. I have a sin offering. Sin offering that's going to atone. That's the only offering over here. Right? And I have the goat, Lazazel. I have this goat that's going to die in the desert, however it's going to die. Right? So essentially, you have this blood. It's going to atone. Right? But there's atonement for the Jewish people, as we mentioned. There's atonement for the Kohen, for his family. Right? Two things going on over here. First thing is we're talking about atonement for the Jewish people. Right? This is a sin offering. That's the sin offering it's given. Someone asked, possible anything impure the air? No. Not as it's got to be something. Some impurity, let's say someone impure touched the altar. And not necessarily something in the air, so to speak. Right, but one of the commentaries says over here, it's like you're taking it and re-sanctifying it again. Because we already know, Exodus chapter 40, verse 9, right? We already know it was sanctified before. The Mishkan itself. Tabernacle with all its vessels. and the altars and all that. It's already sacrificed. It's already sanctified. Right? So it's already sanctified. Why does it have to be sanctified again? What is the sanctification? Because we understand it's going to be impurity. With impurity, someone touched it, or, maybe, an animal became not kosher, touched it, whatever the case is, whatever level of impurity, or let's say a Kohen was impure, touched it. Right? He's talking about future impurity over here. So why does that tell me it has to be sanctified? That's the question. Right? In other words, if it's already been sanctified, what am I worried about? It's been sanctified. If it's already been sanctified, why do I need another sanctification? So Rashi already says. He says that which is destined to come. Future. So Rashi understands what I'm talking about now. It's already been sanctified. Right? See, it's already been sanctified. But what's the whole point of the tabernacle in general? What does the Torah say in Exodus chapter 25, verse 8? God says, I want to dwell amongst the Jewish people. What does it mean to dwell amongst the Jewish people? Very hard. How are you going to put God in a box? Very hard to understand. Maybe except according to Kabbalah. Means God has to constrict himself in some way and put his presence somehow in his box. Very hard to understand. Because if God represents the entire world, the entire universe, right? How in the world are you going to put him in a box? Right? That's going to be kind of hard. If not seemingly impossible. Right? So we can explain it. We can explain it, Kabbalistically. But simple explanation, very hard. Right? Very hard over here. But God wants to dwell amongst the Jewish people. So the Mishkan tabernacle gets erected, gets put up, taken down, wherever they travel in the deserts. But the whole point is sacrifices and to see God's presence. God wants his presence there. But also what's going to happen? We know there's going to be a sin. A major sin is going to take place. Right? What's the major sin going to take place? Sin of the golden calf. Jewish people at the highest level, at Mount Sinai than they've ever been, and that the world's ever been, except from before Adam and Eve had sinned. So comes along Mr. S, the Satan, the evil inclination, angel of death, whatever you want to call it. He says, I can't let this go. If I let this go, they're going to go into the promised land. That's it. My job is over. So what did he do? He makes a vision. People see the vision. Moshe Rabbeinu in a coffin. Moshe Rabbeinu has to come back here. They made a mistake in the calculation. They make the sin of the golden calf. You're going to tell me the sin of the golden calf was with the mixed multitude. True. With the mixed multitude. But even so, there needs to be atonement. Has to be atonement over here. So the Mishkan and the temple later, the Mishkan, the harbinger for the temple in Jerusalem. What do they do in the temple? Sacrifice, all kinds of sacrifice. One of those sacrifices, sin offering. So we call this the refuah before the makkah. The refuah meaning the antidote, the medicine, so to speak, before a person gets sick, before a person gets hit. Why do I say that? Because God already knew Jewish people are going to sin. They're going to sin in a major way. He's got to grant them atonement. So what's he grant them atonement? How do they get atonement? So at this time and age, what do? They have to bring a sacrifice. Right? They have to bring a sacrifice over here. Sin offering. So therefore God says, okay, you can have these, the Kohen, the high priest is going to wear these vestments. He's going to wear them during the year. He's going to wear them on Yom Kippur, different ones on Yom Kippur. He has to go through this whole process, as we've been speaking about week after week, what he has to do on Yom Kippur. one time a year is going to go in the Holy of Holies. Great. Right? Unbelievable over here. But God already put into motion. He already put in the world this idea. It's going to be a Mishkan. It's going to be a tabernacle. Very good. Tabernacle's presence is going to be there. But what does God want from the tabernacle? God wants to be sanctified. Very good. But what's it used for? Draw people close. Sacrifice. Right? The miracles of sacrifice. Now, just on that note, we don't have such connection. We think, people will think, oh, really? Third temple is going to be rebuilt. They're going to be sacrifices. We don't relate to it. We think it's like medieval. Some people will say it's medieval and cutting up the animals, bringing the blood. You got some, sometimes you got the insides going up there. I mean, we're not going to get gross here. But you're going to say, we don't relate to this. And because the temple was destroyed, so we have prayer. Prayer's always been, there's always prayer at the time, at the time of the temple, when the temple existed. Some people prayed more, some people prayed less, right? It wasn't really, codified. The first prayer book not codified until about the 8th century, I think, or 5th century, but Sajagon. But regardless, people have this thing about animals. What you gonna do with these animals, which we're allowed to use them. Allowed to use them whatever we want as long as we don't abuse them. But at the same time, over here, there's a sanctification. God's telling you, take the animal, sanctify it. I want you to sanctify it. I want you to use it for this offering, that offering, another offering. We're allowed to. But you're going to say, come on, we don't relate. So with sacrifice in general, spoke about this way back, speaking about this a number of times, right? Sacrifice, what's the word for sacrifice in Hebrew? It's korban. What does the word korban literally mean? What's the root of the word? Kuf resh beis. Right? Karov, karev, la'akriv, right? To draw close. When a person brings a sacrifice, if a person brings a sacrifice, you're going to draw close. That's going to draw you closer. Now, what is the $3 million question? What is the $3 million question? $3 million question is, person would see that animal, blood going all over the place. There were miracles, many miracles that happened in the temple, right? But, a person sees all this going on. Where's the closeness? See, we can't relate to this. But I would assume if we were living way back when, and we saw God's presence, we saw the miracles, that's a different story. We're thousands of years later. Very hard to relate. Very hard to relate. So a number of years ago, when I was in South America, when I was in Chile, so I went a few times actually, to help out in ritual slaughter of animals. And really, I went once for chickens, once for cows. And when I went for cows, I thought for sure I'd be a vegetarian. Well, thank God that didn't happen. Right. But, in one run, when a cow was killed, I tried to imagine, if I had to bring or someone had to bring the sacrifice as a sin offering. Now, when you bring a sacrifice as a sin offering. That cow or that animal, bull, whatever it is, that animal is going to get killed for you. That really should have been you. So essentially, what do I see? If that animal is supposed to be me, that should make an impression. In other words, see the animal die, blood sprinkles, this, cut open the animal, all kinds of things. Right? All kinds of things going on. So if a person imagines you're taking this animal. Now, you also have to realize this animal costs a lot of money. Yeah, you have to buy this animal. You have to bring it to the temple. Right? A lot of time. Take you to get to the temple, this, that, and then it has to be sacrificed. So, you're losing time, you're losing money, but you have an obligation, you have no choice. You got to bring the sacrifice. They have no choice. So now imagine you got time, money being spent, and you realize that when that animal is slaughtered, who's that animal supposed to be? That animal is supposed to be you. Now, if that animal is supposed to be you, how could you not be affected when the animal gets slaughtered? How is it possible not to get affected? Unless the person has unbelievable hardness of heart. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Because, again, you see what's happening to this animal. You see how much time you had to spend, how much money you had to spend. So a person's going to think twice, 3 times before they sin again. You're going to say, why? What if a person is doing things robotically? And this and that, so they have to keep coming to the temple. And I don't think a person is going to be interested in doing such a thing. Why should they be interested? It's time, it's money. The person had to realize it's no game. It's all about life and death. You had to bring a sin offering for what you did. So by bringing a sin offering, you have to realize you did something wrong. Not only did you do something wrong, but this animal dies in your place. So all the PETA pet activists, whatever you want to call them, they're going to jump up and down and say, hey, the animal did nothing. The animal's innocent. There's no rhyme or reason why this animal should be slaughtered. Oh, yes, there is. You know what the rhyme and reason is? Because God said, slaughter it. Right? God said, this is what you got to do. I don't care. You like it. You don't like it. Too bad. Go fork over all the money. Go waste all your time. Take you a week to get there. This, that. That's what you got to do. You blew it. You sinned. You spoke Lashon Hara. You did whatever. So now you got to pay. Now when a person realizes all the trouble he has to go through and money out of pocket to boot, I would think maybe this person is not going to be so quick to say something. You're not going to be so quick to open up their mouth, to do something, to do something wrong over here. They're going to say, what? All because of this? Person's going to be a choir boy. They're going to change overnight, right? What's the alternative? What could cause them to sin after seeing all this and going through all this? The evil inclination. You say, right, they're going to have to pay. I'm going to have to this. We don't get the message. Totally don't get the message. This is supposed to be a wake-up call. A huge wake-up call. So if a person would make it real in front of their face, if they would see this was supposed to be what's supposed to happen to them, and they see what the animal goes through, I would think it makes perfect sense. They're going to think twice in the future. They're going to think twice about doing something wrong. Or maybe they'll think 3 times, 4 times. I don't know, whatever it is. But see, maybe a person won't get the message. And maybe a person, what happens, gets blindsided. Evil inclination overcomes them, they sin again. Now they have to go through the process again. So why did they get the message the first time? And if we understand, as many say, what the price we're going to pay later for the sins that we've done. Right? There'll be a price to pay. If we don't suffer enough in this world, there'll be a price to pay later. Now, some people will say, okay, I understand. But is that really going to make it, is that going to make us not sin? Is that absolute fear going to stop us? You need fear. We always say you need fear. But you got to make it graphic. You got to be able to see it in front of your eyes. So a person will say, my Rebbe says, wow, I've never met anyone been in that world and come back. We're not living in that world. We don't see what goes on, even though we heard stories. People have had out-of-body experiences and what they experienced, what they saw, what they heard. suffering that people went through. We understand. And everyone says the same thing, so you can't say they're lying. Men, women, children, Jews, non-Jews. They'll say similar things, exactly what the Zohar says. When someone dies, right? 2 movies, the person's going to be shown. First is they see their life flash before their eyes. That everyone says. Then they're going to feel the embarrassment of what they've done. But they're going to know they're in a world of truth. Right? So even if we know that, even if we heard stories like that, even if other people have said, yeah, you do this sin, you'll be in the 8th level of hell, 5th level, 10th level, 9th level, whatever it is, that stops somebody from sinning? Does that really stop somebody? It'll make them think, hopefully. And again, I agree. Person needs fear. Without fear, without any deterrence or repercussions of what we do, what's going to stop someone from sin in general? So the lowest level of fear, as we say, is the person's afraid they're going to fry in hell forever. The highest level of fear is to understand God runs the world, the awesomeness of what he does. He gives us air, he gives us water, gives us food, takes care of our needs. He keeps the earth at the same rotation. Not too close, not too far away. Otherwise, we'd never be here. We'd either be incinerated or frozen. But how many people thinking these things on a regular basis? How many people, are living this? You're going to say, come on. These are great ideals. Life is hard. We got to live in the real world. The real world is got bills to pay, things to do. Right? We get distracted. That's quote unquote the real world. Okay. So what? Just because God put out in the world and he allows us to be distracted doesn't mean we should. God understands that. He made this world. The Ramchal in Path of the Just, he says, what are we here for? To struggle. That's what we're here for. Some more, some less, some in this, some in that. But at the end of the day, we're going to have to answer. We're going to have to answer. So why don't we take it that seriously? Why do we give in to our evil inclination and say, well, it's powerful? True. But there's more to it than that. Why do I say that? Very simple. Because the reality is that this is going to be a shocker for most people. The reality is we really don't believe. We're really 100%, all of us are heretics. At some level. So a person's going to say, what do you mean? We try and keep Torah mitzvahs. Try and be the best we can be. Different things. How can we be heretics? How, in theory, could we be heretics? Because we don't see it in front of our face. We don't live it the way we should. We give it lip service. Right? How many times have I heard people say, I want to do the right thing and this happened. And I kept doing the wrong thing again and again and again. Okay? So how do I stop that? We get into bad habits. We all have bad habits. Got to break bad habits. Probably one of the hardest things to do. Right? But we have to live and see in front of our face and see what happens. To think a little bit. What could be in the future? The Beis Levi, Israel Dov, Soloveitchik, a blessed memory. The father of Chaim Brisker, blessed memory. Every day, not including Shabbos or festival, the Beis Levi would put his hand over fire in order to feel a little bit what hell was like. Because talk about this burning fire, it's hard to understand. How can a burning quote unquote fire burn a soul? Very hard to understand what that means. Can't necessarily be a physical burning, right? Soul can't be burnt per se, right? It's the pain it goes through, whatever level that is, whatever it is. But at the same time, the Beis Halevi, by the end of his life, his hands were like black. Dark brown, black. Why? Because every day he put his fingers near the candles. Now, I'm not telling anyone to do this. This is what he did. Why did he do it? Because he wanted to make it real. He wanted to feel a little bit what the pain was going to be like. You're talking about the Gadol Ador, right? Greatest rabbi generation. He doesn't know where he's going. Can't be sure 100%. He wants to feel it so that it'll put fear in him. Something real. So yeah, we're going to say we believe 100%. We'll say every day, Ani, Mami, B'munah, Shleima, I believe with pure faith. The coming of the Messiah, I believe in pure faith. Resurrection of the dead, all that. Very good. You can say it. And you can say it every day. Question is, do you internalize? Do you get the message? Right? Because I've heard people say, the mantra always is, we come back to this, God's the one in charge. He's the one that runs the world. So someone will say, but I say it a number of times, it doesn't work. We live in an instantaneous generation. We think, okay, I said this, I did that, that's it, it worked. Every year people trying to sell courses, different things. If you do this, you do that. You follow everything I say, you're going to make X amount a month. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. Sometimes it sounds like a scam. Right? Maybe a lot of times sounds like a scam. Etc. But we say things, we pray every day. Some of us pray 3 times a day. How much do we take stock of what the words say? Again, and if you did that, it'd take you forever to pray. True. You got to take stock a little bit what it says and what it means. I'm not even talking according to Kabbalah, simple explanation. But you have to make it real, you have to make it graphic. Rav Victor Miller, blessed memory, said many times, he used to walk out to nature. He used to thank God for everything, for air, grass, rain, snow, cold, heat. Because there's a benefit to everything. But when you see something like that, you see God's wonder in the world. You look at an apple seed. Take an apple seed. An orange seed. You look at it and say, wow, this little thing. Well, look at all the DNA. Look at all the DNA that's in the seed. You put it in the ground, all things being equal, water it, sunlight, what's going to do? It's going to grow. It's going to grow a tree, hundreds of apples. Why? You're going to say, what do you mean why? Nature. What nature does. It does it all the time. Right? As long as you got the right elements, that's what it's going to do. You take a pit of a peach, of a plum, thing of rock hard. Rock hard. Try and break it with your teeth. You break your teeth first. Give it to an animal. Animal ain't going to eat it. Right? It's too hard. What's the miracle of a peach pit? You take it, you put it in the ground. Water, sunlight, it's going to grow into a tree. The miracle is you can't break it in this world. No possible way. I mean, maybe take a sledgehammer, this, that. Fine. But you don't have to do that. What's the miracle of this pit? You put it in the ground. Bacteria eats at it. It dissolves into the ground and it forms this tree. What in nature you couldn't do yourself, your animal couldn't do it no matter how big or strong it is. You stick it in the ground, add some water, disintegrates. Breaks down. But it doesn't just break down. It breaks down in order to form a tree. Right? With a lot of pages. Pretty miraculous. right? But a non-believer, an atheist will say so. That's nature. That's what it's supposed to do. Very good. Why? No atheist in a foxhole. Why? You ask an atheist, why should this be? Because that's nature. Where did nature come from? Where in the world nature come from? Say, well, maybe there's a big bang. Universe sort of exploded. All these things happened. You had all these amino acids. In the universe, there was this big bang, and all these things happen all at once. Wow, pretty incredible way. Create the world. Now, not necessarily a contradiction to Torah. Not getting too much into physics. But then you get another question, right? We've got a lot of questions there, no answers. What's the next question? Obvious question. Who did the Big Bang? Where did it come from? Say, no, the universe set up like this and like this. And it just so happens all these other things came into place. What an absolute miracle. The miracle. Why does the earth stay on the same axis? Say it's gravitational pull, it's this, but why? Why doesn't it move a little bit further this way or that way? Why did it start out that way? What's the answer? So they have answers scientifically. Again, have to do with gravitation, this, that. But how did it get set up that way? Can't be random. If it's random, then we're living in the luckiest world of the world. Then we're the luckiest people in the world. Because random, Kaufman would say, does not butter the biscuit. How can you say the whole world just came in? You drop ink on a piece of paper. What happens to the ink? It goes out. If you do it again, does it make the same shape or form? No. So you want to say it's all big, just random thing? That's what to tell you. It's all random. And the way the human body works. If you learn the Chovos Levovos, studies of the heart. Body's random. You got muscles and things that open and close at the right time, this, that. Pretty miraculous if you look at the human body. So it says Rav Victor Miller of blessed memory. You want to have proper emunah, proper faith in God. It's not just, I got to believe. That's for the Christians. It's a leap of faith. Not a leap of faith. There's design. Abraham himself, the father of all nations. Abraham at the age of 3 or the age of 40 came to the realization there's a world made by design. Everyone else had their pocket God. Here's Bob. Don't leave home without him. Everyone had their pocket God. Everyone was involved in idolatry. So they ask him, Abe, have you ever seen God? Have you ever spoken to you? No, but I know he exists. And he proved it to them. Converted thousands. Him and his wife. Thousands they brought closer. Because he said, your gods don't do anything. Totally don't do anything. But there's a world of design. If again, an atheist could say, yeah, that's all coincidence. It's all coincidence. You think about it, well, we're going to keep this clean, right? We all know, how babies form. You got some from the mother, some from the father, etc. Babies formed. 9 months, totally safe in there. Totally safe. Gets plenty of nutrients, everything. Totally taken care of. Now, you want to tell me? All right, this is biology. Biology 101, 101A. So a person does one thing, and then all the nutrients, everything goes in. And it works to form a human body. To form a human. That's pretty darn miraculous. And if all things go well, child is born, 5 fingers on each hand, 5 toes, a head, a nose, eyes. Each thing in and of itself. And how the baby develops. Nothing short of miraculous. Now, what would an atheist tell you? An atheist would totally tell you, yeah, come on. Did you ever learn biology? If you learn biology, then you understand. Okay. But that's not the question. We understand how biology works, whether with plants, animals, whatever, the basic level, whatever level. But to tell me that this is going to happen, and this is how the baby's going to be formed, it's going to have lungs, you look at the intricacies of the human body, the human eye, the brain. Study that a little bit. Blood goes through the brain, gets stuck a little bit, aneurysm. Gets stuck in traffic. Boom. Then a person dies, or potentially could die. Right? So many different things. The fact that a person can see how light enters the eye and what the eye does. Better than any supercomputer ever made and will ever be made. So says Rav Victor Miller, quotes the Hovos Levovos left and right. And he said, that's how we have to see the world. When you see the world in that way, and you see that it cannot be by design, it cannot not be by design. Someone had to design it, not by luck. Too many things in the human body and in nature in general to say it's luck. To say it's, like Amalek brought to the world. Chance happening. Total chance happening. Come on. What are the odds? The odds are zero. Says the Hovos Levovos, you want to see God in the world? You want to see his awesomeness? Take a look at the human body. Take a look at nature. Now, there are a lot of things we don't understand. 100% true. A lot of things in this world we don't understand at all. True? Right? Not going to deny that. 100%. Right? Even if that's the case, so what? Who says we're supposed to understand everything? But people will say, look at nature. Nature is nature. Yeah, but who's running nature? Why do these things have, all things being equal? If you took an apple seed, put it in the ground, you have, proper irrigation, proper water, proper sunlight. You have all the factors that are good. So this should come into a tree, be made into a tree. Okay. So if you have all those factors 100% of the time, that's what's going to happen every single time. So people will say, yeah, that's what an apple seed is. Or by humans, same thing, except, God forbid, a person would have a child mentally challenged, or sick. When a child's born, everything's good. You say that's what's expected. We take that for granted, for sure. But if you would say these things happen 100% of the time, 100% of the time you do this should happen. This should be the end result. So again, what is an atheist going to tell you? The atheist out there will say, yeah, that's nature. So then you got to press them and say, okay, it's nature. But nature's not random. Cannot be random. So many things. So many things. Pollinization, fertilization, all these things. That you say, okay, bees have to take this, they bring this, you got plants to bring oxygen, all whatever. How the world survives. That's pretty darn ingenious, whoever designed it. You cannot say, people could. Very hard to say, well, we had all these amino acids and bam, there was this big bang, whoever did it, doesn't matter. Made all these things, I got a bridge in Brooklyn I could sell you cheap. Would anyone put any amount of money on that and say that's viable? The viable option? Everyone will put their money on the other thing. What's that? Evolution. Totally never been proven. A lot of problems in evolution, right? Without getting into it. But why do people believe in that? They'll hold on to it for their lives. And they'll say, oh, it's all random. Why are they going to hold on to that for their life? Because there's only one other alternative, which nobody gives any credibility to. The only other alternative, there must be a God. There must be a higher being who did it. Can't be random. It's like taking dice. A person's gonna roll the dice. What are the odds? The odds are not only extremely small, they don't exist. They're below zero. I don't know if you can even say that. It's zero. That you're gonna have this explosion, this is gonna happen. And at that split second that it happened, put all these other things into a ring, right? It made everything the way it is today, and that the way it's been forever. Well, that's pretty darn lucky. We don't believe in luck, right? The odds of that, are the same odds. I would say during the Gulf War, 39 Scud missiles, and they don't hit one building. The odds of that are zero. Because of my wife's trying to say, yeah, I can figure that on my watch. Come on, it's like 1 in a billion trillion. You're going to tell me either these missiles are not accurate, which wasn't the case, right? You tell me they're not accurate, or you got the stupidest Arab shooting them. 39 don't hit anything. Relatively close range. Don't hit a lamppost. Don't hit a building, don't hit a restaurant, don't hit anything. No cars. They all end up in open areas. Well, guess what? Israel is not that big of a country, right? Israel's the size of the state of New Jersey. Anyone who doesn't live in America, Google it. It's very small, extremely small, right? You go from the top of Israel to the bottom in 5 hours, 6 hours by car, right? It's very small. You got to tell me you don't hit anything? Not one thing. Same odds, zero. I put all the money I don't have down and say, yeah, that's never going to happen. Got to hit something. Hit a fire hydrant. I don't know, something. Got to hit something. You can't tell me it's not going to hit anything. Right? So that's a bad example. Creating the universe and putting everything into motion. You're going to tell me, one split second, all these things lined up absolutely perfect, and that's how it happened. Would you put odds on that? Never. It'd be like shooting darts. Shooting darts and say every single time I throw it, I'm going to hit a bullseye. What are the odds of that? There's also zero. Maybe you'll hit it, maybe once. You'll be lucky. Right? But never going to happen. Never going to happen. So now, what's someone going to say? What's someone going to say over here? Someone's going to say, but I don't live my life that way. I don't think about these things. Well, we should. Because if you start thinking about things, you see the awesomeness of what God does. And you see how he runs the world. Whether we understand it or not, doesn't matter. In fact, he puts everything into motion. When he puts everything into motion, guess what? It rains, it snows, it's warm, it's cold. It's putting all the elements in the world for us to live. So how can I do anything against it? So Gemara says, person sends nichtnachs bo ruach shtus, enters in him a foolish thoughts, foolish ideas. How can it be? Because if we really analyze, we really internalize and get the message, you'll never sin. But what's someone going to say? Someone's going to say, didn't you say before, Moreinu v'Rabbeinu hayet Sahara? What about the evil inclination? Causes us to lose focus. True? Very true. We don't think about what we're doing. We do things robotically. Okay. But you got to think about the bigger picture. You got to think about the fact we're going to have to answer for what we do. But at the same time, you look at the world, you understand, how the world works and all the miracles and different things. You gotta say, come on, this doesn't resonate. Why not? When a person thinks, doesn't matter what happens, right? I'm going to go online here. I'm going to go on record here and say, it doesn't matter what happens to a person. You have it easier, you have it harder. You're going to say, why am I going through this? Whatever the case is, you should thank you should be whistling Dixie. However you do that, And you should thank God every second you're alive. Right? Kiss the ground every second you're alive. You keep Torah and mitzvahs at whatever level. You know, A, that you're not a robot. B, you're not a Christian. You're not a pagan. You're not a Muslim. You're not any of these things. You should be whistling Dixie. I say, but it's hard. And learning is hard. And getting all the stuff down is hard. You're right. 100%. Takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. A lot of times we fail. But my question is, why don't we get the message? Why are we living at this higher level, understanding God's awesomeness and what he potentially could do? It's not all about fear. Not all about fear. That person has to realize they'll pay a price. There'll be repercussions. Same time, person thinks these things in and out. You know, and they say the mantra, God, you're the one in charge. Look at all the great things you've done. You know, you put it into your mind, you think about it, what it means practically. It takes time, it takes effort. It's not a 5-minute operation, right? Not something instantaneous, as we always say. But that's all we want. You know, I heard a great rabbi say once before Yom Kippur, people look at, people want to get a good judgment, different things. So they do this, they do that, they do the other thing. In order to get a good judgment, he says, I got a better idea. It's called tshuva. It's called repentance. Right? You want to better yourself, you got to work. You got to strive. It's hard. No one's going to say not, but you got to be grounded in this world. You got to think about what we're doing here. You got to think about how God runs the world, how God's in charge, what he does for us. Million things to be thankful for. But at the same time, we have to realize, there are tests, there are trials. But there are so many things we have to be thankful for. And what always happens, we get beaten down in life. When you get beaten down in life, it's hard to see the good. It's hard to see the good. That's why the Vilna Gaon, blessed memory, sent his students where? To hospitals before Shabbos. Why did he do that? Because they were struggling with poverty, unbelievable poverty. But when they saw people who were in pain, they couldn't feed themselves, couldn't take care of their needs, guess what? They went into Shabbos totally different. Okay, come Friday night, they're having soup. Maybe there's one potato or scrap or something in the soup. Okay, right? It's a different perspective. Right? So the idea is understand what, we don't want to be thankful for what we have until we don't have it. We want to be thankful for what we have when we do have it. Be appreciative of that. Does that mean life is perfect? No. But we have to be introspective. We have to make these things part of our psyche every single day. Every second of every day. And the more I say it, the more it has an effect. And it doesn't matter what people say around us, what they're doing, irrelevant. Right? We're in a mission. Our mission is, King David says, chapter 9, right? We're in this world 70 years. If we have strength, 80 years. So we're not here that long. Life goes by very quick. So the question is what we make out of our lives, what we do. That's the name of the game. And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to waste it. Their choice, they'll pay a price. Definitely their choice. We're not resting on our laurels. We're not saying, wow, I'm holding better than probably most Jews or this and that, so God's going to cut me some slack. Who says? We should all have higher expectations. We should all never be satisfied where we are. Right? If someone says, I'm good. I'm good over here. I don't have to work so hard. I'm happy being mediocre, try and get a job that way. Never happened. Going for an interview. What are you good at? Oh, not very much. I'm just sort of mediocre. Not very good at very many things. That's it. You won't get hired. Why are you going to get hired? Right? But, that's taking life seriously. I'm not saying we drive ourselves nuts either. Got to cut ourselves a little bit of slack. Even if we make mistakes and this and that, regardless, we're human, but we have to understand what our job is. We have to understand the awesomeness of this responsibility of living in this world. Yeah, a bunch of questions here. 1 second. Someone asked, person's not punished for someone else's sin. Yeah, I'm going to punish all of Israel for the sins of those 3,000. So you're right to a point, right? Meaning that it's true, even though the Torah says a child can pay for the sins of the father, right, or the parents. Now that, the Gemara says, is only if you go in their wrong ways. If you don't go in their wrong ways, that curse doesn't apply. Because, it doesn't seem to be fair. Why would it be that, if a parent did something, so fine, they're liable. Let them be punished. Why should it come out in the child? All right, it's a good question. But one answer is it's only because that child goes in the wrong direction, goes in the wrong way, right? Goes in the wrong way of the parents. All right, that's how it can happen. Goes in that way. Goes in that way. Well, what do we see over here? You're right. 3,000 people of the Erev, the mixed multitude, get killed. But you know what? It was such a severe sin. It was such a severe sin, even though seemingly the rest of the Jewish people were not guilty. Nonetheless, it was severe enough that they're part of the Jewish people. You're right, it's only the mixed multitude. But the question is, they came out either they were non-Jews from Egypt or other places. Whole, disagreement of opinion over here, who exactly the mixed multitude was. Regardless, they're considered Jews. Whatever that conversion looked like, they're Jews. After the Torah was given, so they went under some level of conversion, whatever it may be. Like the entire Jewish people were converts, right, at Mount Sinai. So they went through the same thing. So you're right. It was only them. But guess what? It doesn't matter. They're Jews. They're full-fledged Jews. So therefore, there's a Talmudic dictum that says, Kol Yisrael Ravim said, all Jews are intertwined. We're all intertwined. So if a Jew does something wrong in France, or in America, or in South Africa, or anywhere, it's not just they pay the price for what they do. Collective punishment. Now you say it's not fair. Totally not fair. I didn't do anything wrong over here, let's say. We've been doing good things. Why should we pay the price? Because Jews are intertwined. Example we give, is imagine an Italian in Brooklyn does something wrong, something terribly wrong. People are going to say, that's it. We're going to burn all Italians, burn the flag. No more cannolis. We're going to burn them down. Burn down France. Never happened. Never happened. I mean, do that, you call it racist. Whether it's Italians or Puerto Ricans or blacks, whoever, Chinese, Orientals, whoever, right? That's being racist when you blame a whole race or whatever the case is. So in this case, Jews do something, secular, religious, doesn't matter. We all suffer. We all suffer. But you're going to say, what about the secular Jews? They never knew any better, this and that. Okay. They're all going to get punished. Different levels. Depends on what they've done wrong. Right? But everybody pays. That's why secular Jews during the Holocaust didn't understand that. Why are you taking us? We're just like you. Went to universities, married your women, this, that. What did Hitler Yamach Shemoy V'Zichroi say? His name be blotted out, may rot wherever he is. What did he say? I don't care. You get Jewish blood from the mother, from the father, you're dead. You didn't care. But they said, we're just like you. We're no different. Take these other Jews. Take these other Jews. They don't eat your food. They don't go to your games. They don't marry your women. They're different, not us. What did God say? What did God say over here? He says, I'm going to take all of you. Collective punishment. Now, a person will say, why? The Holocaust, we don't understand why it happened. You can understand maybe certain things, but we don't understand what the reason is. Yeah, there's a lot of assimilation, intermarriage, other things. Okay, we can't say that's the reason. These are factors for sure. But at the same time, God can say, okay, I had enough. You didn't listen. Because you didn't listen, I'm going to make this decree. And we see a lot of times there are, God forbid, a bad decrees. Terrorist attacks, other things. So you say, but these people don't know any better. Why we get punished? Guilty by association. Not a very popular thing to say. Obviously, if more Jews are doing the right thing, it's a different world. It's a totally different world. But you see, if you read, you read the prophets, you see what goes on to the Jewish people in Jewish history like a sine curve. Jewish people do the right thing, Jews are on top of the world. They do the wrong thing, they go back down. They go up, they go down. They go up, they down. But you see, but for a long time, we've been down. It's always since the destruction of the Second Temple. Pogroms, Holocaust, all kinds of things. Now, at the same time, we have everyone thought Orthodoxy was dead. And Orthodoxy has come back in a major way. Tons of yeshivas, girls' schools, all kinds of things going on in a positive way. We're also, 70% intermarriage. Right? You also got the other way. Okay. Right. But at the same time, who's more responsible? Right. Again, not a popular thing to say here. Who's more responsible for their actions? Secular Jews, that their biggest question might be, if I put ketchup or mustard on my hot dog, that's where the whole day? Or by Orthodox Jews, who know better? We're held more liable. Right? We're more liable over here. The Korban Aron, the Or Chaim HaKadosh, blessed memory, brings down chapter 11. Right? Chapter 11 talks about the sin of Nadav and Avihu, which is chapter 10. Right? And he says, when you're closer to the king, trying to explain why Nadav and Avihu died, we spoke about this a lot way back. He says, when you're closer to the king, the punishment's more severe. See, if you're the water carrier, you're the mailman, the king's not really going to care so much what you did. Right? Or someone else take care of it. He's not going to be affected in general. But if you're second in command, you got much greater responsibility, and you mess up, even, let's say, by accident. You mess up and you cause the king either embarrassment or a loss or whatever the case is, you're in serious trouble. Serious trouble. You're going to say, come on, it was a minor infringement, let's say. But it made the king look bad. It made the king look bad. You're going to look better without a head. Right? He's going to take care of business. Why? Because the king had greater expectations. Much, much greater expectations. So one minor slip up, it's over. Could be, God forbid, over. Right? So I would agree, you're right. 3,000 people in a mixed multitude. Desecration of God's name, all kinds of things. You have to remember, the world was at the highest level in spiritual terms at the giving of the Torah Mount Sinai. They've been at the highest level since before Adam and Eve ate from the tree. They brought the world back, to where it is, and, got worse, in different ways. So that was something so egregious as people were Jews. If you tell me they're non-Jews, why should we be affected? But if they're Jews and they were proper converts, which seemingly they were, even though God told Moses that it wasn't a good idea to take them out, he did it anyway. Whatever his rationale was, we paid a price, and we're paying that price for all generations. Right? Because if you read the verses over there, Moses pleads that he shouldn't wipe out the Jews. God wanted to wipe out the Jewish people at that point. Start again with Moses. So God says, if I dwell amongst the Jewish people, I'm going to destroy them. So Moses made a pshara, made a compromise. What was the compromise? Moses says to God, listen, you have every right to destroy the Jewish people. Well, let's make a compromise. Have mercy on them, and instead of destroying them, make the Jewish people in every generation pay for the sin of the golden calf. It's like paying in installments, right? But this is for all generations till the Messiah comes, right? So for the next 3,000 years, Moses says every generation, let the generation suffer for that sin, but don't wipe them out. But to collect the punishment. We, the Jewish people, and that's why, anyone who wants to convert, keep this in mind. It's not just about you and what you do. That's why the Rambam says the laws of repentance, one of the 24 things stops a person from proper repentance is what? It's separating themselves from the Jewish community. You can't be your own island. Can't live in your own place. Got to move and live amongst Jews. Collective. Got to be with them. Can't just do whatever you want. Can't be, well, I'm doing whatever I want here in my sealed room. Right? And no one else is affected. Not true. You are affected, but it has an influence on everyone else. Even if we don't see it, even if we don't fathom it. As we say, if a person's keeping Shabbos, let's say in Shabbos they're keeping it, in Israel, they're keeping it properly, it stops someone from desecrating Shabbos in France or in America or other places. It's the power of what we do. So you're right. 3,000 Jews, they were Jews. Right? They're converts, a part of the Jewish people, collect the punishment. Again, it's not a popular thing to say. You say, they did it. What about the rest of the Jewish people? They're also guilty. Because we're all intertwined. That's the way it works. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's the way it is. We do something wrong, we're our own worst enemy. One person, you can take an Orthodox Jew, rip someone off in business. Unbelievable, Chil Hashem, desecration of God's name. Not in the literal sense, but it makes us look really bad. You know what the punishment for desecration of God's name? Punishment is, you have to go through Yom Kippur. Right? You have to properly repent. You have to suffer in this world, but you don't get repentance yet. Everything is suspended animation. You don't get repentance yet until you die. That's how bad it is. Now Rashi says, one explanation of desecration of God's name is a Jew does something wrong, and other people learn from their bad action. So people say, if they do something wrong, and other people say, well, if he can do it, why can't I do it? And I heard someone say this. They say like this. This person, this Orthodox Jew commits fraud, does whatever it is, does something wrong. Something pretty bad. So what's their rationale? Their rationale is, well, I didn't do that. I'm not such a bad person, right? I didn't do what they did, so who says I have to keep torment? So what's God going to say? So if I put on my funny glasses and my funny mustache, right? Well, if I was playing God, what would I say? What does it matter what this guy did? Or this woman did? Totally forbidden. 100% forbidden. Okay. Even if it's forbidden, they're going to have to answer for themselves. God, God is going to take care of business. Doesn't need me to say that. He's going to take care of business. He's going to punish that person. Okay? What does that have to do with you? The fact that you saw somebody do this, or you heard about somebody did this, what does that have to do with you? That's called passing the buck. That's saying I'm shirking responsibility. Why? Because look what this person did. It could be something horrific. Okay. God's going to take care of business. 100% God's going to take care of business. So if God's going to take care of business, what are you worried about? What does that have to do with you and your observance? What does that have to do with you and your service to God? Nothing. You got to serve him anyway. It doesn't matter what someone else does. God's not going to ask you, why weren't you like this person? Whatever. Why'd you reach this potential, that potential? He's going to ask you, why'd you do what you're supposed to do? And we're going to have to answer. But it's not based on anything else except what we did in this world, except our actions, for better or for worse. We're going to have to answer. Now, we might have good excuses. Maybe we don't. But it has nothing to do with someone else did. Right? So, I'm not a therapist. I'm not playing one on TV, but I'm going to say like this. So you can take what I say now with a grain of salt. But I'm going to say like this. A person can go through any number of traumas in this world. Sexual traumas, psychological traumas, many different things. Person, could be embarrassed in front of people, and it has a negative effect. Can have a spiral effect. So let's say, so I'll tell you the following story. Make this graphic. Tell you the following story. There was a rabbi that was a teacher. He saw one of his old students. And he was living in Israel. He said, how you doing? This, that. So he's asking about different people in the class, in his class. What's doing with this one? What's doing with that one? And he asked about a certain student. This guy says, he's not religious. They're not religious anymore. He says not religious. He said, what happened? What happened to him? So he didn't really want to say, but he told him, he said, one day you embarrassed him in front of everybody. And after that, it was never really the same. He just got worse after that. He said, really? So you in contact with him? You give me his contact information? So he called him up. The rabbi calls him up. And he asked him if what he heard was true. And he said, yeah. Now, what's the punishment? You embarrass someone in public. Right? It's akin to death. The Rabbeinu Yonah says in Shari Tshuva, Gate to Repentance, he says, not everyone holds this way, but if you embarrass someone in public, you're liable for death penalty. Now, why? Because it's like murder. They turn red, then they turn white, or they turn white, then they turn red. Right? So it's like murder. But murder itself is not death penalty. Unbelievable chiddush, unbelievable novelty by Rabbeinu Yonah. Right? Not everyone holds like this Rabbeinu Yonah. Rabbeinu Yonah said, you embarrass someone in public, use your portion of the world to come. You murdered him. So this rabbi gets, very scared, and he says, will you be mochel me? Will you, I'm so sorry. I didn't know, whatever. He said, will you forgive me? He said, there's only one way I'll forgive you. He said, the only way I'll forgive you is you got to bring the entire class back to that classroom. And you have to apologize in front of the class. He said, what, are you kidding? He said, people live all over the world. I'm a Rebbe here in Jerusalem, for goodness sakes. Wherever he was. I don't need money. He said, that's the only way I'll forgive you. The only way I'll forgive you. So the rabbi goes to Rav Eliyahu. Right? He was a Torah giant to the last generation. And he asked Rav Eliyahu, what should I do? What do I do in such a case? Rav Eliyahu screamed at him. And he said, he's giving you your Olam Haba back. He's giving you your place in the world to come. He's giving it back. You got to do it. You're obligated to do it. And he said, I don't make that much money. Like, how am I going to, afford it? He goes, doesn't matter. Do it. He says he's giving you a golden opportunity to get your Olam Haba back. To get your portion of the world to come. You embarrass them in public. That's the punishment. You embarrassed them. That's what you got to do. However he came up with the money, he got all the people, all the students to get them back together, flew to America, went back to the same school, same classroom, got up in front of everyone and apologized. And he apologized. And what happened? He said, okay, I'm mochel you, I forgive you. Gave him his portion of the world to come back. Now, what's the purpose of this story? What's the purpose over here? Purpose I'm telling the story is 100% this Rebbe, right? He's got blood on his hands in a certain way. He embarrassed him. You should never embarrass anyone. Anybody. Anyone's been embarrassed, they know what it feels like. Right? Person should never have to be embarrassed. No one should embarrass anyone else. Very good. What's the other side of the story? The other side of the story is, you're right. This person got embarrassed. They went through a very hard time. I get it. Now, the question is, how's God going to view it over here? We got to think in those terms. How's God going to look at it? God can say, right, I put you in that situation. This is supposed to fix up whatever, right? Whatever it is. God's going to tell this person later. You had a very difficult time. Very difficult time. But what could God say? God could say, listen, you went through this hard time. I get it. And maybe you had to go through that to fix up something in your soul. Maybe you get a free pass. Maybe. Right? But you failed the test. You failed the ultimate test. What was the ultimate test? The ultimate test is you're right. The Rebbe embarrassed you. All's going to pay. Right? All's going to pay the price. But what gives you the right to turn your back on me? What gives you the right to go and spit in my face? God could say. So what could the answer be? You say it's under onus. Where's the onus? He made a clear-cut decision. If that's Torah and that's what people can do in Torah, I don't want any part of it. Okay. You made a wrong choice. And you pay for it. A barrel of wine should be well. Once told the story, imagine kids in 4th grade, 10 years old, right? 9 years old. Then 4th grade has a bad teacher. Let's say across the board, we all agree it's a bad teacher, okay? You think that kid's going to say, that's it? I'm done with education. We don't need no education. Forget it. It's Pink Floyd. Anyone doesn't know, right? We don't need education. Forget it. I'm going to go get a job. Never happened. You're going to say you might need therapy to deal with this. True? Had a bad teacher, bad experience. They can ruin people. True? Parents can ruin people. Teachers can ruin people. Other people. True? Now I'm going to ask you the $1 million question. And the $1 million question is going to be hard to hear. I'm going to say it anyway. Who the heck cares? They're going to say, come on, that's the cruelest thing you've ever said. What do you mean? Someone gets embarrassed, this and that? Okay. I'm not going to say it's not real. I'm not going to say a person lost self-esteem. Right? Not going to say that. Still got to answer. Does that mean God's going to give you a free pass for spitting on him? And say, oh, this is the Torah. This is a reward for keeping Torah. I get embarrassed. This is what kids do to me. You could say that. You can definitely say that. You can also say people are cruel. You can also say sticks and stones, right? But you got to say the experience can destroy. True? Definitely true. But the great rabbi once told me one of the biggest problems today, told me this many years ago, probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, is that kids don't have self-esteem. Get knocked around, they don't have self-esteem. Okay, but we're living in a Teflon cream puff generation. Even if something big happens, okay, right? It's trauma, I get it, right? I'm not saying the person may not need therapy and other things to get through it. But at the end of the day, if I understand the bigger picture in general, and say, I didn't deserve that, or it's part of the bigger plan. Let's say I did deserve it. This is what God did for whatever reason. Put me in the situation. At the same time, what I do with it afterwards, it's up to me. Now you're going to say some people get so devastated, they never recover. Could be. Right? Could be. But what about that perspective? What about the mantra? You say, God caused it. We understand. Why? I can't answer. I'm not saying we did it person of their ownness. They didn't deserve it, per se. They didn't do anything to egg it on. Wrong place, wrong time, let's say. The other person's guilty. Good. Now it has an effect on you. So now the question is, how do you view it, right? I had someone tell me, someone 70 years old, 75 years old, right? Tells me, when I went to Cheder, I went to Jewish school. Now I was 5 years old. The Rebbe hit me. And if that's what Judaism is, I don't have anything to do with it. I said, who says that's what Judaism is about? Maybe, maybe the Rebbe had a bad day. Maybe, whatever. Think of a number of reasons why. The person kept saying the same thing like a robot. And if that's what Judaism is, I said, but it's not. He had a bad day. Why did you say he had a bad day? It's an excuse. If that's what Judaism is, that's what Judaism can do. But see, we live in this cream puff generation. And we want everything to go easy and everything to go smooth. Well, guess what? That's not the way life works. That's not what life is. Life is a grind. The question is, some people go through all kinds of things and they raise themselves to the top regardless. They fight tooth and nail and they raise themselves up. Other people get crushed, totally crushed, and it carries with them their entire lives. Everyone's going to tell you totally unhealthy. True? Totally unhealthy. Now, some things people will say cannot be fixed. Without major medication, without, major therapy. Could be. Could very well be. But if we would understand with all that, it's not, let's just say we'll make it easy. It wasn't the person's fault. It's not the person's fault. Let's say, I'll give an example. People come from crummy families. And a whole bunch of people, families, anti-Semites, real anti-Semites, Jews, non-Jews, doesn't matter. Right? Self-hating Jews. I know plenty of them. Plenty of them. They won't say they are, but they are. Right? So at the end of the day, they say this, they say that, they say the other thing. And what happens? The person, they just put them down so much, person's depressed. Because they're going on the right path, they're depressed because they, God, what do you want from me? Why do I have to go through this and take this garbage? So what's the answer? We don't know. We don't know. We don't know why. The question is, how do I deal with it? Right? And this comes up all the time. How do I deal with it? How do I look at it? And again, I'm going to say it myself. If I would have known what I'm saying now, 25 years ago or more, my life would be totally different. Would have looked at things totally different. But I didn't. Now a light bulb goes on, you see. You see what it is for what it is. Why you have to go through it, I can't answer. Why do some people, I had somebody who became religious, and all his kids became religious, but he became religious later in life. So I asked him, how'd you become religious? He goes, that's not the question. The question is, why didn't my siblings, why did my brothers and sisters become religious? We saw the same thing. So you know what the answer is? They didn't want to see. There are people who have the eyes to see. There are people who don't have the eyes to see, or they don't want to see. They'd rather be blinded. They'd rather live in fantasy. Okay? Right? Does that mean that they could put a lot of pressure on you, make you feel like a piece of dirt? Yeah. Yeah. So now the question is, okay. It's hard. It's depressing. You get beaten down in life. Okay, I get it. So now what? So aren't you going to say it's a test? Sure, it's a test. It's a huge test. But see, even if someone says it and they don't back down, someone told me recently, someone said, I was mentioning the facts how I got locked in the bathroom, right? I told the story before. So I said I couldn't even pray. Right? I couldn't even pray because I was in the bathroom. Right? So what the person say? I didn't worry, I threw that out at the end of this conversation. Throughout this, funny story or whatever. So what the person come back with, oh, is that one of the rules? I said, yeah. That was it. I made one other comment. That was it. Oh, is that one of the rules? Yeah, it is. I know what they meant. I know where it was going. That's it. Knocked it out. I went like this. Bink. You can say, come on, Rabbi, isn't that painful? No, because the person's an idiot. The person doesn't know anything about Judaism. Zero. So all they're going to do is they're going to make, some comment somewhere down the line. Just going to happen. So you can say, why do you have to do with such people? Very good question. Good question. This is part of my therapy here, right? Good question. But you know what? I'm not going to get excited what the person says. Never. You know why? Because it don't matter. I don't care if it's family. I don't care if it's sibling, a parent. It doesn't matter. Because what they say is irrelevant. Because they don't know anything. Right? They have a 25 IQ. They are, I'm going to say it, and people are going to hammer me. They're retarded. They're mentally challenged. Right? Now I'll say it right. They're mentally challenged. Someone who's mentally challenged, I'm never going to take what they say seriously. Never. You're going to say, but it's painful. Didn't it have a negative effect on your life? Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did for a long time. Right? So finally, someone explained to me, you're never going to get anything from these people. Never expect anything from these people. And what are you going to, why are you going to let them be inside your head? So you're going to say, it's painful. Okay? Right? But it gets less painful when you look at it in a certain perspective. Like I said, I wish I'd have known this years ago. Would have made all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. Okay? You find out later. Good. At the end of the day, a person can say, wow, family doesn't support me. Don't have any kind of support. It can be depressing. True? Things in my life I'll never share with family. It's never going to happen. Is that sad? Sad. Are they interested? No. They were going to be interested? Can't say. But at least at this time, no. Okay. So now what? They're lost. But people are going to say things. So what? Let them talk. Why should it get under your skin? But if a person gets so depressed and this and that, and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, yeah, that's the work of the evil inclination. That 100% is the work of the evil inclination. So if a person, you're going to say, got depressed, this happened, that happened, you're still going to have to answer. After 120 years, you have to answer. Doesn't matter who your parents were, who your siblings are, what you went through in general. Even if some people went through such horrific things, they're paralyzed, this and that. Okay, so some people need, more serious therapy than others. Some people may never get over certain things, or some days they have better days, worse days. I can tell you, I went through that. Not all my money stolen and everything else. I had better days, I had worse days. Right? But at the same time, everything happens for a reason. Right? And, while you're chasing your tail and you're trying to survive, at the same time, how do you view the world? How do you view the world? Why do you have to go through this? So what's my answer? I don't know. I don't know why you have to go through certain things. But, it makes us who we are. But if we understand the bigger picture, we say, okay, if God would open my eyes and say, listen, I'm going to take away all your money. You're going to suffer like no tomorrow. But, 18 years later, you're going to leave Israel. You're going to come back. You're going to live in a certain community, and 3 of your kids are going to get married in that community, from people in that community. They're going to marry into great families and different things, and, you live happily ever, live happily ever after. Okay, I wasn't given that picture. I wasn't shown that picture, given that information. Well, that's essentially what happened. So, do I understand and connect all the dots? No, some of them connected some of the dots, certainly not all of them. But at the same time, that's the end result. That is the end result. So that's a million things to be thankful for. A million things to be thankful for. Are there things that could depress you? Yeah. No question. No question about it. Question is how you deal with it and how you look at it. Right? That's the name of the game. That's everything over here. I think it's tragic. Someone goes through certain things and they just either they don't get the right help, or they don't deal with it properly, or they don't see the bigger picture. So again, people can take what I say with a grain of salt. I'm not a therapist. I'm not claiming to be a therapist. Right? But people say, come on, I say the mantra all the time, it doesn't work. You got to dig deep. Torah is digging deep. Torah is working hard. And even when you're thrown to the wolves and no one helps you, and you feel like you get kicked upside the head when you're down. Yeah, it can be downright depressing. I don't think there's any question about it. At the same time, a person, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We don't always see it. Doesn't always happen overnight. It can happen over a long time. A long time. Things get better, things get worse, this, that. With all the difficulty, not like I never had food, wasn't like I was, living on the street. Plenty of people, I shouldn't say plenty, people have had that, and all kinds of difficulties. I didn't have that. And plenty of other things that were embarrassing, but we're not going to go there. So, the question is how you view it. And there were days, it was harder than others, just embarrassing. Put your best foot forward, you get slammed, left, right, center, all kinds of things. This doesn't go, that doesn't go. Try this, try that. And you feel like the biggest loser in the world. You're putting your best foot forward, but what's the answer? What's the answer? The answer is you keep putting your best foot forward, even if you keep getting slammed, because God doesn't want you to succeed over here. Okay, but still got to keep putting your best foot forward. It's not a guarantee for success. I'll tell you what a guarantee for emotional success. A guarantee for emotional success is understanding what I'm doing here in the world, understanding the bigger picture, and understanding success is not based on what I do. And if something happens, and someone is used against us, God is using them to get to us. It's a wake-up call. Now, am I going to say I'm going to thank someone and give him a big hug for slamming me? No. We're not all, we have to be there. We have to be at that level. Right? I can tell you, certain times, I said it. I said, all right, I know what you want over here. You're the one in charge. I want to thank you for this golden opportunity. I said it. Should say it a lot more often. I want to thank you for this golden opportunity to work on anger, to work on my faith, my belief, like these different things. Because when you say it, it has an effect. It has an effect. Doesn't mean it has an effect overnight. No one should ever expect it happens overnight. Right? It takes time, it takes effort. But again, I just want to point out that what can happen is, in this case, this child gets embarrassed. Leaves the fold. Now someone else like that got embarrassed. That was like the beginning of the end. Different way. Now again, who wants to get embarrassed? Nobody. Nobody wants to get embarrassed. At the same time, a person has to deal with it. But a person is going to have to answer for what they've done. If a person's under onus, they're not in control, okay, it's a different issue. A different issue. But we're thrown so many different things in life. What's the question? How we deal with it? How we look at it? Are we still going to serve God with the same fervor or not? So a person can say, but look what you did. Very easy to blame him. Let's say he caused it, let's say. Okay? So we did over, you caused this, you caused that, you caused the other thing, because it's right. So, and there are many reasons why I did it. So, still got to serve me. Still got to pray to me. Still got to make blessings. Still got to make blessings. Still got to keep Shabbos. Still got to do all these things. Different doesn't make what you went through. Now again, I hope God has a lot more mercy. He should have a lot more mercy. But what a person goes through, the question is how you deal with it. You're going to say, it's hard, it's this. You're right, it's a million things. A million things. Everything together. Bad education, bad parents, bad family, bad this, bad that. Okay. Very good. So what'd you do with it? A person can sulk all the time. That's not good. Right? A person can be depressed. That's certainly not good. It's got to be dealt with. Some things are easy to deal with. Some things are harder to deal with. Right? If I understand it's a test, if I understand it's all a test and I see the bigger picture, again, therapists will tell me I'm out of my mind. You can't, that's not going to bring someone to the other side. That's not going to make them sing and dance every day. True? That's why it's not therapy over here. But it gives you, it gives you a way to understand that even if God sent it to you, you didn't do anything to deserve it. It's what your soul has to go through. Okay. But if a person, because of that, spits in God's face, that's my whole question here. What is there liability on their end? It's liability. I'm going to say there's liability. 100% there's liability. Because you failed the test. And over story, someone became religious, didn't have a rabbi in their life. Whatever happened, they were in contact with family. Family was toxic. They had, a lot of issues. Family put a lot of pressure on them. And eventually they cracked. Eventually they cracked and became secular. Because they claimed, again, I don't know all the information or much of the information, but the information I do have is they cracked. They cracked because they said they were in a situation they couldn't handle. God put them in a situation too strong they couldn't handle it. Because that's between them and God. But we don't believe we're in a situation we can't handle. We may think we can't handle. Right? But at the same time, what does God say? Okay, I put you in this situation. Good, deal with it. Let's see. Let's see. So a person can say, well, because God put me in the situation, I'm not going to keep the Torah mitzvah. It was too hard for them. Okay, but they didn't have proper das Torah. Right, as far as I understand, they didn't have, a rabbi they could speak to or whatever. They don't live in a Jewish community, so I understand. Much, much harder. Much harder. You're fighting against the world by yourself with no support. I get it. If you had support from, community, from a rabbi, someone to give you support, it's, not going to say it helps 100%, but it's going to help you a lot. Definitely going to help you a lot. And if you have no support, you get slammed left, right, and center. It's understandable. A person's going to freak out. And a person's going to have all kinds of difficulties because they're getting beaten down. That makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. Right? But a person has a lifeline, has a community, somebody. Somebody, it's a whole different world. Whole different world. Someone asked, evil inclination is going to die. Deal with some of these questions now. And the Torah is going to be written on our hearts. Why would we still sin in the kingdom reign of the Messiah? Who says we're going to sin? We're all going to be doing God's will. It won't be an evil inclination. Right? If we're not going to have an evil inclination, there's no sin. So we're not going to need sacrifice for sin offering. Nobody will sin at that point. Right? So that's not going to happen. So you have to show me where it says anywhere that when the Messiah comes, we're still going to sin, right? That's totally opposite, right? If we don't have an evil inclination, we're not going to sin. Right? 100%, we're not going to sin. So, that's because we don't have an evil inclination. Someone asks, last week's parsha, that Esav could improve his ways, right? Yaakov withheld Dinah from Esav, right? Is there a chance for Esav? Why didn't it happen? Dinah gets raped, basically. She gets abused, by Shechem. Why did that happen? So simple explanation is Dinah went out to see the world, and and that's what happened. But the Medrash brings down that when Esav meets Yaakov, he hid her in a box. He didn't want Esav to see Dinah in order that he should have an effect on her, right? Or that Dinah should marry him, let's say. So what happened? He got punished. He got punished over here. Now, it's very hard to understand. Very, very hard to understand. Because, why didn't Yaakov do the right? Why is this not considered like he did the right thing? Isn't it true if Dinah would have married Esav, she would have had more of a positive effect on her than him? Seemingly. right? If she was as righteous as she was, she could have reined him in, maybe. Right? But he's punished. He didn't give her a chance. He didn't give her a chance. You're gonna say, what? Give this evil person, Dina, come on. Why do you have to do that? Why should you have to do that? Right? He wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid per se. Anything's gonna happen to her, but he's punished. He's punished over here. Right? It's a little bit hard to understand why. We've all done the same thing. We don't want her to see Esav. We don't want Esav to see her. But isn't it true she could have had a positive effect? Yeah. If she's as righteous as she is, she should have had a positive effect. Right? He didn't want to start. He told her, Yaakov did not want to start. Right? So Medrash says he gets punished, and that's what happens to him. It would have had a positive effect. Right? It didn't happen. Again, what's the reason? Because Yaakov didn't want it to happen. Yaakov did not want to put his daughter through that. That's why he's punished. Seemingly, that's why he's punished. The Medrash says. Someone said in some recent video that the Big Bang could not have possibly happened. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so science is ever changing. Torah says God does not change. Right. Now, just point out that Big Bang is not a contradiction. Not a contradiction at all. Right? Now, definitely not a contradiction. Right? At the same time, who knows? Science come up with all kinds of different theories. Right? So to speak. Why things happen, why they don't happen. But again, it's not really a contradiction. Someone asked, person has to go to the bathroom saying the after blessing. Right? So he has to go to the bathroom. You say it, you say it anywhere. Say it anywhere, after going after going to the bathroom. Right? You just can't make that blessing disgusting place. Right? That you can't do. That you're not allowed to do. But you say it wherever you are. Yeah. Let me see. Someone asked, we condemn other people because of their past or when they do mistakes. Oh, I get all the easy questions. Condemning someone of their past, you got to be careful. Right? You can never remind someone of their past. A person should never remind, let's say a convert. Oh, I remember when you weren't Jewish. I remember you used to do this and do that. It's Torah prohibition. It's called onus devarim. Not allowed to say things and remind people of past things they've done wrong. If you're doing it in a way to say, listen, you keep doing the same thing. Look, you did this, you did that. You're trying to correct them, and trying to get them to stop doing bad habits. That's one thing. But if in general you just say, hey, you did this, you did that, you did the other thing, yeah, it's forbidden. For a Jew, someone to remind the Jew, someone who became religious, and they remind, say, I remember you used to eat shrimp. I remember you used to do this. That's a Torah prohibition. You're not allowed to remind someone of their past. Now, a person's in therapy, you're allowed to speak Lashon Hara, in order to get to, what the issue is and what the person went through. Right. But at the same time, speaking in general, reminding people of bad actions, yeah, that's never good. That's definitely never good. It's called onus devarim. The question is, how does it affect us and those people? Well, you embarrass those people. Even if you're not embarrassing in front of other people, you definitely embarrass them. I'm sure, people, if you remind them what they did in the past, maybe some people won't care. Maybe some people, it's a water, it's like water off a duck's back, okay, they did that when they were younger. Big deal. Doesn't mean anything. But people can be sensitive, and if you remind them of their past, they can, not going to be good for them. Doesn't help them. If you're trying to help them and work with them and this and that's one thing. But in general, just remind someone of their past, you can make them feel bad, and the repercussions for you could be catastrophic. You know, you have to ask serious repentance from this person, right? But that's a total prohibition. Reminding someone of their past, if it's totally not constructive. Yeah, again, if you're trying to help them, you bring up certain things they did in the past and it continues, whatever, and it has an effect, that's a different issue. But if a person, I'm just saying, if a person in general brings up someone's past for no other reason, just otherwise to bring it up, that's a severe prohibition. Severe prohibition. How can it affect you? It's not death penalty. It's not a death penalty prohibition, but it's a pretty severe prohibition. Onus devarim also means call someone even by a nickname. Maybe you call someone Shorty. Non-flattering nickname that you're not allowed to do. What if the person doesn't care? Person doesn't care, so what? Right? So what if you call them Shorty? It doesn't bother them. Right? It doesn't matter. Still not allowed. What's the punishment? I can't answer. It's a severe prohibition. It's not a death penalty prohibition, but it's pretty severe. Nobody wants to be reminded of their past. I don't think too many people, if it's something negative. If it's something negative, I don't think anybody wants to be reminded of their past. It's like, oh, don't you remember this? Don't you remember that? Well, it brings up bad memories. Could bring up bad memories because the person doesn't want to go there. Someone here mentions God created nature initially, everything reproduced, there was a malfunction. No such thing as malfunction in nature. Right? Someone born with a defect. Well, it's a different issue. Someone's born, let's say, with some sort of defect. You know why they're born with that defect? Because God made them with a defect. Right? That's intervention. God made somebody blind. God made someone mentally challenged. God made someone with disease. Right. But malfunction also happens, and God allows it to happen. Now, there could be people that, genetically maybe shouldn't have kids. They have kids and their kids die. Okay, God didn't stop them. He allowed it to happen. These things happen because God allows it to happen. And not just all, it's a thing of nature. Malfunction, play with nature. I'll give an example. You take a donkey and a horse. You put them together, you make a mule. Mule, tremendously strong animal. Unbelievably powerful animal. What's the problem with the mule? It's sterile. Now, does God stop people from creating mules? No. Doesn't stop them. But there are repercussions. Right? What's the repercussions? Right? What's the repercussions? Sterile. That's not a coincidence. Totally not a coincidence. Right? So we're not allowed to play with nature. Does God allow you to play with nature? It doesn't stop you. Right? There will be repercussions for what a person does. Someone asks, if JIT sees a Jew desecrate Shabbos, what's your responsibility? Ooh. What's your responsibility? Just try and draw them closer. Right? People will say, well, you got an obligation to rebuke your fellow Jew, right? So non-Jew wouldn't have that obligation. Right? But let's say you were a Jew. And if you rebuke them, say, listen, don't you know about Shabbos? Aren't you interested? They say, just, bug off. I'm gonna do what I want to do in this and that. Right? Who says you don't have to give rebuke? People are gonna say we don't know how to give rebuke. If we know how to give rebuke, it'd be a different issue. Right? If we knew properly how to give rebuke. Well, you're gonna say we don't know how to give rebuke, so we're exempt. It's not true. It's a very intricate whatever. There's a lot on this topic. When things apply, when you have to, when not to. Putting stumbling block in front of someone, also part of it. Where are they holding? There are times you have to say something. A non-Jew doesn't have an obligation. Definitely doesn't have an obligation. Question is how far the obligation goes for a Jew. But people make the mistake and they'll say, well, they're not going to listen anyway. Okay. So what? They're not going to listen who says you don't give them rebuke. Even if they curse you out, so what? They think, don't you know it's Shabbos, this, that. And even if they don't listen, right? Even if they're not going to listen, doesn't mean I'm exempt, right? But it's a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing. When to say something, when you're obligated to say something, when you're not obligated to say something. What about, you were somewhere, this rabbi saying, someone was at a, what was it, at the Super Bowl? Might have been the Super Bowl. I was at a sporting event. I think it was the Super Bowl, but whatever, and, he's sitting there and there's a Jew there, secular Jew. Secular Jew ordered something non-kosher, whatever it was. Is he allowed to pass it to him? What's the question? Question is, it's a Torah prohibition putting a stumbling block in front of someone. Right? So what do you do? Right? If it's handed by someone else, by a non-Jew, very good. Who says you're allowed to give it to him? If you don't give it to him, he's going to hate Torah more, this and that, whatever. Right? That's the whole question. Or if you saw by someone's door that, they got a delivery of a tray, non-kosher pizza. They're allowed to steal it and throw it in the garbage. It's a question. Stopping someone, stumbling block in front of you. He didn't do it. Question is how far you have to go. Right? To by a Jew, something else. Right? By a non-Jew, doesn't apply to give rebuke. Right? Definitely doesn't apply. Should they? Again, they're not obligated. They're not obligated. But the question is, how far does the Jew have to go? That's whatever. That's a huge topic. Huge. Huge topic. When, where, and how it applies. Someone asked, a blanket term, you cannot embarrass anyone, right? Is it a blanket statement? Or someone is wicked, cruel, not Jewish? In general, you can't embarrass a Jew. You're not allowed to embarrass a Jew. I should have made clear, very good question. What if the Jew doesn't keep Torah mitzvahs? What if he desecrates Shabbos? I can say whatever I want to them. Definitely can say whatever I want to them. I can go as far as taking away their livelihood. Not part of my people anymore, right? Again, it depends what they've done. If they're a proper Jew, I'd say, yeah, you're not allowed to embarrass them. You're not allowed to embarrass them. If they're not a proper Jew, we're the most Jews out there, except for parents. No matter what a parent did to you, you still can't embarrass them, right? You're not allowed to embarrass them or make fun of them. But in general, a Jew, someone's holding by Torah mitzvahs, that's where it applies. If they're not holding by Torah mitzvahs, I can say whatever I want to them. No desecration of God's name because they deserve it anyway. Right? That wouldn't be an issue. I could embarrass them. I could make fun of them. Is it a good thing to do if you have no reason to? No. I wouldn't go that far. Other people would probably disagree, but I wouldn't go that far. The reason is because, someone who's kosher, so to speak, you might end up doing it to them. So, someone who is not a kosher Jew, I'm not saying they're not Jewish, they're just not keeping Torah mitzvahs, right? Their mother's Jewish, they're Jewish, right? But, if they're not keeping Torah mitzvahs, I can say whatever I want about them. Now, is it healthy? I wouldn't say it's healthy, but you're certainly allowed to. 100% you're allowed to, right? If they don't have the status of a Jew anymore. Technically, I can do it against a non-Jew as well. It doesn't apply, but I wouldn't say it's a good thing to do. In general, I wouldn't say it's a good thing. Right? We're not interested in starting up with people and, and other things, but doesn't mean it's not necessarily permitted, right? And again, just because it's permitted doesn't mean I should do it. Yeah, what about Elijah the prophet and the prophets of Baal? I get it. Right? What's the problem? It's not to embarrass them. Idol worship, we can embarrass. We can make fun of him. Right? I can say short little fat guy. Reference to Mr. Buddha himself. Make fun of any idol I want. There's a big mitzvah to make fun of idolatry. The show it's got no power, it doesn't do anything. Right? That you're allowed to do. That's a different issue. Right? It's only for idolatry. You can make, for Elijah the prophet, make fun of them as much as they want. right? Say, come on, scream louder. Maybe your God can't hear you. Maybe your God's in the toilet. Come on, scream louder. Not a problem. Positive command to do such a thing, right? Make fun of idolatry, paganism. Not an issue at all, right? That's permitted. You can embarrass them. You say whatever you want, right? Not saying not. I'm just saying in general, is it a good thing to do on a general basis? Depends for what purpose. Some people would say, even if it has no purpose, you can do it anyway. Okay. I'm not going to deny that's true. Should a person do it? Different issue. Just go around making fun of people? I don't know. You might make fun of the wrong people eventually. Right? But you're allowed to, no question. So that's not an issue. Right? Totally not an issue. Right? Someone is an idolater, this and that, can embarrass them in public. No issue. No issue. Again, it's like you're a Jew. You can do that also. They have the status of a non-Jew that desecrate Shabbos in public. Not a problem. Not a problem. Is it a good thing to do? That's not the question. The question is, are you allowed to do it? Allowed to do it. Because they lose their status over here. They lose their special status. So if they lose their special status, I can do what I want. I can't kill them, obviously. Other things you can't do, but making fun of them, saying things, sure, why not? You're gonna, they'll say, oh, that's disgusting. How can you Orthodox? It doesn't matter. Say whatever you want. They don't have to like it. You can say, hey, Rabbi says go eat kugel. You don't like it. Okay, so let them go eat kugel. I've had worse things said to me. It's okay, you don't have to like it. That's the way it is. You don't like it, that's it. It's bent over backwards. I'm not gonna do that. Torah says what it says. You don't like it. Okay? So you make up your own religion. And that's what people do. They make up their own religion. They do what they want. Okay? I have to answer that? I don't have to answer it. I don't have to answer it. Don't ask why the temple altar. What's the temple altar for if we're not going to sin in the Messianic era? Bring other sacrifices, not just sin offering. When you have other sacrifices, the person bring a burnt offering, goes on the altar. Right? The person can bring a free will offering. The person can bring a, Thanksgiving offering. There are many other offerings other than the sin offering goes on the altar. Right? It's not just a sin offering. Yeah, I would also agree. I caught someone an outright lie. They said something pretty disgusting. I'm not going to say what it was. But, when I called them on it, they said they denied saying it. So I said, I'm not deaf. I heard what you said. That's what you just said. They denied it to my face over the phone. Right? So you're right. I would agree. People should think before they speak. Yeah. We don't. Some people just, what they say, people have diarrhea of the mouth. They talk and they talk and they talk. They don't think. They don't think. And if you get offended, what are they going to say? They say, oh, you're too sensitive. Okay, maybe I am too sensitive, but you still have a right to say it. That's how they get out of it, by saying, no, you're too sensitive. That's not an apology. They're like, they'll quote Whoopi Goldberg, they sock it up. They'll say, sock it up, deal with it. Well, people don't care. They'll say what they want. If you don't like it, get too bad. You ever tell a person that curses not to curse, and then they just say every four-letter word in the book in front of your face. Okay, people don't think, people don't care. So we gotta be pretty strong. We gotta let these things just like, we gotta blink them like that. It shouldn't affect us, but it's sad. It's sad. People say things they should never say. People don't think. That's the problem. People don't think. And then if you say something that was offensive, come on. They're like, why are you getting offended? What did I say so wrong? They're not going to get it. People are insensitive. They are. And people say whatever they want. They don't care. I've seen it by some religious people also. People might have been dropped on their head or certainly bad influences. And they speak about things they shouldn't speak about. They just say what's on their mind. Well, you can't do that. You got to think. You got to think. You say something. How's it going to affect someone else? Right? Next part of the mission I'm going to get to in Pirkei Avos. right? What we say affects other people. You got to think what all the repercussions could be before you say something. I'd also agree. I wish people would be more careful. It's all over the place, all over the internet. It's on social media. People say all kinds of things, crazy things, this, that. No, they don't care. They don't care. If they don't like it, don't go eat kogo. You don't like it. Someone asked, can you substitute besomim if you don't have them? Yeah, can you substitute it? What do you do if you don't have besomim? If you don't have something that's gonna make that blessing, then you can't say it. Then you don't say it. Right? But it has to be something, that same blessing. Right? If you don't have anything, you don't have cloves, you don't have cinnamon, something, that makes that same blessing, then you can't do it. So what do you do if you don't have it? You don't have it. If you have it a few days, you find it a few days later, then you still make the blessing on it. Right? But if you don't have it at that time, you don't make the blessing on it. Yeah, let me see. Any other questions here? Let me see. There's one other question here. What's your advice if you move to a new location, people don't like us? What happens? You know what? There's nothing foolproof. There are people always going to question why a person wants to convert, why they want to move to the Jewish community. And even maybe after conversion, people still say, maybe not be so friendly, right? What's the advice? My advice is you have to have thick skin. That's my advice. Can't worry what people say or whatever. You got to do what you need to do. You want to be accepted. You want to integrate into the community. That's the most important thing, right? Definitely the most important thing. Are some people, or maybe a lot of people, going to be skeptical? Yeah. After conversion, maybe not. Right? If they don't like you, okay. You got to make the best of it. Not, that's the problem. Moving to a bigger community is better. You have, choice of more people. You move into a smaller community, you only have a handful of people. However many people are there. Right? That can be hard. Right? That can be hard. And, even a small community can be a lot of politics, different things. And, I know someone who was part of a small community many years ago, and they had it hard. I'm not going to say not, they had it hard. You know what the person said? Didn't matter. Single woman, and decided I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'll keep to the standard of what the community wants, this and that, and that's it. I wouldn't say people should jump from community to community, right? You find people you like, you find people you don't like. That's like any place. That's like any place. The only problem is you go to a smaller place, there's a smaller amount of people to choose from. Right? But I don't believe, unless they make problems for themselves, that a person's going to get to a community and they're not going to find people they like. They're not going to turn everybody off unless they do things to turn people off. Right? I can't say much more about that, but that's pretty much I would say. If a person in general is a problematic person, they don't get along with people, they're not going to go along with people in the Jewish community either. Right? But, if they're outgoing, they're friendly, this, that, or maybe even a little bit introverted, and they get along with people in general, they shouldn't have an issue. Will some people not want to have anything to do with you? Yeah. Because they want to see that you're real. But, that's in a smaller community, you have smaller amount of people to choose from, for sure. That's for sure. But who says you're not going to find people that you like? Or that they like you? Not going to be, everybody's going to be against you. It depends what a person does. A person can make enemies, very easy to make enemies. Right? No question. Especially if you're on the outside looking in. But in general, in general, person does everything to fit in, they shouldn't have that issue. Definitely should not have that. Definitely should not have that issue. I'm not saying it's a non-issue, right? It can definitely be an issue, but from my experience, if people fit in other places, they'll fit in. It's harder to fit in because you don't know the nuances and this and that. But person really wants to fit in, they'll fit in. And they'll make friends. Yeah. Any other questions? All right, I'm gonna stop here. I do this every Sunday, 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. Next Sunday, I think it's Hanukkah, so I don't think it's gonna be a class next Sunday. Probably Sunday after also, because it's about the time I light. So I'll put up a note at the end of the week or whatever for next week. Otherwise, anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIM COFFMAN@gmail.com. Wish everyone a good beginning of the day, middle